really excited today to have Shayne, got it, Mostyn.
We're off to a kicker of a start.
They're going to say, how did these guys start with so much energy?
So the big question is this: how do smartphone photo enthusiasts like us become that creative and confident photographer we desire and deserve to be, creating those beautiful, impactful photos? This podcast will give you the answers. I'm Mike, and welcome to the Smartphone Photography Club.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the latest episode on podcast and YouTube. I'm very excited today to have Shayne Mostyn from Shayne Mostyn Mobile Photography with me. We've just been having a bit of a chat in the, what do we call it, the green room. So I just wanted to, I'm really thankful and privileged to have you on here, Shayne, to reach my audience, because we've got the same audience. So you specialize a lot more than what I do. I'm kind of still finding my way and trying to surface everybody. But you've found your niche, and you're just killing it at the moment on YouTube. Every time I look, I think every day I look at your channel, you're up another 1,000 subscribers, and as you know, the numbers are fantastic. But it's not about the numbers; it's about reaching more people and helping more people. So, which I think you're doing an amazing job. I know I've got a bit of an introduction written here. So you're a YouTuber and publishing at least twice a week, although this week we were saying about 8 or 9 videos already.
There's certainly been a few this week, yeah.
Yeah. What else have we got here? Content creator, course creator. So can you just tell us what you actually specialize in and what you do?
Well, as far as the mobile photography goes, it's all low light photography with small sensor cameras. Generally speaking, it's going to be mobile phones. So mobile phone cameras, and teaching people how to take like astrophotography photos or nighttime landscape photos, pretty much anything when it's low light or long exposure. So that's pretty much the niche that I'm in. When I started the YouTube journey, I looked at people say you need to have a good niche for your YouTube channel, and I went, okay, well, it's photography. And then I went, let's niche a little bit harder and make it mobile photography. And that was okay. And then I niched even harder and went, let's make it low light mobile photography. And there's people doing it out there, but I'm pretty much, without sounding like a goose, I'm kind of owning that space. It's if you were to search even Google for how to take photos of the stars with your iPhone 13, you're going to find my videos, whether that be the 13, 12, 11, Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra, you're going to find my stuff. So that's what I enjoy doing myself, and that's what I enjoy teaching people how to do. Yeah,
fantastic. And you're starting to get a bit of a collection of phones, I see. I remember when
there's a stack of them up along there. Yeah, I spent some time on eBay today offloading some.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. What are you getting rid of?
We'll talk after this.
Yes. Sure. When you first started the channel? Just over 12 months ago now? What did you start with? Because I know you've just got the iPhone 13 and are smashing out the content for everyone considering buying and seeing the improvement. What did you start with, and what did you buy after that?
It was the 11 Pro, just this regular 11 Pro, not the Max. It it just kind of coincided well with it was just you buy a phone through a phone plan a lot of the time, and my phone plan came up for renewal then, roughly the same time so backtracked a little bit. I was teaching mobile photography in person. So I teach photography as well, like proper DSLR photography and mirrorless photography. And because I live in a small town, pretty much anyone who was going to do that sort of course with me had done it. And I was talking to my wife one day, and she said, we'll teach people to take photos with their phone. And I thought, no one takes photos with their phone. That's just ridiculous. And it turns out you do.
Yeah.
And I'm making a career out of it. But when the big C thing happened, we weren't allowed to go anywhere and talk to people in person anymore. So I had to work out a way to continue doing this because I was enjoying doing it. And the main catalyst around starting the channel was at the time that when we got locked down here, I was actually teaching some local businesses how to take product photos.
Yep.
And I thought, oh, I could probably just make a video with it and put it onto YouTube. And then then I started thinking about YouTube and how to basically succeed on YouTube, I guess. And the niche thing came to play. And then I went, well, I do astrophotography with my DSLR, and I'm teaching phone photography. I wonder if you can actually do this with a phone. It turns out you can. So that was my very first video, was all about that. I ended up doing the product photography a little bit later, just so that those people still had that knowledge that they needed, because no one could go and open a shop. They needed to sell online, so they needed good photos, and you know the story.
Yeah.
But I started with the 11 Pro and was like, oh, this is all right. And then a lot of my initial content was just with that phone. And then a new series of pixels came out, and I went and got because people would say to me, oh, it's all very well and good, you've got a really expensive phone to take these photos. And I thought, right, that's a valid point.
Yeah.
And I went and got the cheapest Pixel phone that I could find, a new one that was the Pixel 4a, and did the same thing with that. And once I realized, hey, you can do this with multiple phones, that's when I started down the whole, what other phones can do this? How good is this new phone to do this?
Yeah.
That kind of what built it. Yeah.
Well, I still have my 10s Max.
Yeah.
And the reason, exactly like you said, I try and help people become more creative and confident with the phone that they already own. And I wanted to be able to show people that you don't need to have the latest and greatest. That said, the videos that you're sharing on YouTube at the moment, it's like, okay, I'm a few versions behind now.
Yep.
For me to stay relevant, I think I need to upgrade it, because I mean I've got the course on how to go from blurry to tack sharp photos and that sort of thing. But a lot of these phones, I mean, with the computational photography, you're already, you know, leaps and bounds ahead of those of us that have got a few models behind, just in the
absolutely.
Yeah. So that's one
Yeah.
of the things that I enjoy about your channel and talking to you, is that you've kind of, because I try and stay in the creative space and composition and that sort of thing, so a bit more of a generalist photographer, but because you're pushing the kind of boundaries of and pushing these limits, it's really fascinating to listen to you talk about it. Can you just explain to everybody what actually happens when you press the shutter button on your phone? As
in mechanically what happens, or are you talking about what I'm sorry,
yes.
mate, I didn't quite get it.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So when you press the shutter button, it doesn't just go like an SLR or a mirrorless, where it just goes open, shutter, capture, or the computational side of it. It does a lot more.
That's right. Yeah, there's plenty of it depends on the phone. Every phone's going to, so mobile photography versus DSLR photography. DSLR is more like what your eye captures before the image gets to your brain.
Yep.
Whereas a phone photo is more like what happens to that image once it's in your brain, and you're thinking back to how good it was and stuff like that. So the snapshot from a DSLR is just light. The photo from most phones is going to be just light, with an algorithm that's going to enhance some saturation, enhance some shadows, enhance some sharpness. Every phone's a little bit different. They all do this to an extent. Some of them do it a lot more than what others do. And then on top of that, you've got, depending on what mode you go into and what app you're shooting with, it's not as simple as a snapshot with your eye. It's a lot more about how that data is interpreted and manipulated before you even get to play with it.
Yeah, yep. And
is that what you're after?
Yeah, absolutely. And LiDAR is something, and I don't want to go too much iPhone specific or S21 specific, but LiDAR is something that I've had a few people say to me, what is this LiDAR thing? Because they've just, like me, they've gone from an older model to a newer model, and all of a sudden people are talking about this terminology that they don't quite understand, because we don't read the manual that comes with our phone, do we?
That's right. But in saying it, the phone photography, I say it all the time, phone photography, anything to do with phone photography, it has to be easy. it doesn't matter about the tech that's behind it, but for the end user, it needs to be easy. And LiDAR is something that certainly makes it easy. LiDAR, if you think of sonar on a submarine and it sends out a ping and it brings back, there's a submarine 1 kilometer that way, or whatever the terminology that submariners use, but it's getting that like radar bouncing off things. LiDAR works the same way, but with light. So it's able to help focusing in low light situations. So when you're not so much the stuff that I do because it's just too far away, but certainly for some of the stuff like stars and stuff, it's just too far away for that. But when you've got foreground subjects and stars behind it, that LiDAR, that definitely helps focusing. But for things like night portraits, things like night street photography, that sort of thing, LiDAR will help immensely. And you as the user, you don't need to do anything with that. The phone just does it for you. And that's part of the beauty of mobile photography.
Yeah. Do any of the Androids have something similar to that?
Yeah.
You're aware of?
Yep.
Oh,
there's a few of them that do, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, okay. Oh, fantastic. So with your background, Shayne, correct me if I'm wrong, it was ex-army and printer technician, is that right?
That's right.
Yep.
So I was military for 6 years, and then I left there, went to work for Xerox. Most people will know who Xerox is.
Yep.
Fixing printers and that sort of thing. And after that, and I spent the last, 15 years or something before moving down where I am now in like operational management in IT companies.
Yep. And do you ever think when you were in the army that one day you'll end up being a career in YouTube from Kahuna?
Mate.
I can't imagine you got people there.
No, the veteran community is pretty wide, far-reaching in Australia. Unfortunately, there's a lot of us around, and there's so many people. Friends of mine on social media who, when I post an achievement or something on my social media about what I'm doing with YouTube, and they're like, "I can't believe you've done all this after ADF." All the things that you've done. It's they say that people change their career like 4 times, like 4 major. I think it's 4 in their lifetime, and I passed that a while ago, I reckon.
We all change. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. But I like to think that you bring a little bit of everything that you do, everything that you've done in life. You bring a little bit of that. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good, but it brings that part of your history with you and turns you into what you are now. So the other night I was out, and the video will, as we're recording this, I said to you before, like it'll go live shortly. The video that I shot the other night out at Mount Hope, it was dark as dark. There was no moon, there was no ambient light. It was just really dark. And I was climbing all over rocks and boulders and rock faces up at Mount Hope. And if it wasn't for my time in the army, I probably would have gone, bugger that. I'm not doing that. So I think that sort of, the tolerance builds a bit. Like in the middle of winter at 2:00 in the morning, trying to get that nice astrophotography photo while your boots are freezing over. It's just a tolerance thing, And then when you come into here and I do a live stream every other week for the channel, and something technically doesn't go right, well, I draw on that, the printer background, the scanning background, and all that imaging background. So it all plays a part. Yeah,
it's interesting you mentioned about drawing on all those experiences and that sort of thing, because I wrote an article a little while ago about finding your photographic style, because it's one of the things that photo enthusiasts, whether you're downgrading you're choosing, instead of lugging around the big cameras and you want to use the smartphone and get more out of that, or you're new to photography, you take happy snaps and you actually enjoy taking photos and you want to learn how to get into photography. It's one of the things, as you do that, then people then chase this idea of having a photographic style, and people that they go and purchase filters and presets and all this sort of thing, trying to do that. But I think photography style comes from drawing on your experiences, finding what you enjoy to take photos of. For you, walking around 2:00 in pitch black is something that you enjoy doing. So that's how you found yours. Yeah, crazy. and that's how you found your genre. So,
Absolutely.
It's really interesting.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
So when you go to shoot your astros, I mean, you're shooting the Milky Way every time, but you're managing to find different foreground interests and using light painting and all that sort of thing, which is
Yep.
getting some super cool results. Can you explain to us
Mm.
what light painting is with your photos?
So there's two sorts of light painting. One is painting an object with light, and the other is painting light to make an object. Maybe that makes sense. So one, I probably should have sent you a photo of the second one. So one, you might have, for the sake of this conversation, it's all dark outside, the stars in the air, and there's a truck sitting right there in front of you, and you compose the photo. You want that truck in the photo, that truck right there. Thank you.
Yep.
And that all the light that you see in this photo, because it was pitch black, there was no ambient light at all.
Yep.
So all the light that you see in this photo is from a light source, whether that's a torch. In this case here, it was the phone, the torch on the back of the phone. So I used handheld, really bright lights, handheld lights. So the video that's going live now is using a little LED panel light on 1% at about 100 meters away, just to light one tree up.
Wow.
So that's light painting with that.
Yep.
And the other light painting is when you do like orbs of light, like spheres of light, and that's a lot of fun. It's very good fun.
Yeah.
And I've had differing success with doing it, that sort of light painting with phones, but it's certainly something that I'll spend more time working on. That's just the way the channel works. Like the channel kind of goes peaks with new phones, and then as the trend of the new phone wears off, I'll maintain the interest by doing things like light painting and stuff. But they're the two types of light painting that I do. You don't need an incredibly bright source of light. For what I do, when your shutter is open for a long time, the camera already knows, hey, it's pretty dark. I need to process this a bit harder. And then you throw in that little bit of light, it gets wee, and it's a lot brighter for it. So that's light painting.
Yeah, nice. And so with a shot like this, how do you prepare for this? You've obviously gone out and scouted beforehand. You know where the galactic core is going to be. Do you use apps to
Yep, absolutely.
Like
so absolute, yeah, that's a good one. So there's the app that I use 99.9% of the time is an app called PhotoPills. It's a paid app. It's because I was doing this with DSLR well before I started my channel. I was taking photos and selling those prints and stuff. So you didn't want to go out and waste your time. So I would find a really cool subject, in this case, like this truck. And with that particular truck, what I did with PhotoPills, basically it uses augmented reality with the camera on the phone. So you're not using it to take a photo, you're using it to superimpose the galactic core over what the camera sees. So you plan. So with this particular case, I went out to this paddock. I said to the guys that own the truck, I said, drive it to right here and point it this way. That way I can stand. I stood there with PhotoPills and I could see the truck in the image during the middle of the day. Then I would just turn the dial and work out where that Milky Way would be at what time of the night. And it's got a little time reference there. So you'll come back at night to capture that photo. So that's not a mistake, having the galactic core behind that the truck there. That's exactly how I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
That's the tail of the Milky Way, of the galactic core. Like, there's a much better photo, which we'll have a look at in a minute, that shows the whole core. That one right there. So that's the galactic chorus with the 13 Pro Max. It's actually on the rocks that I was talking about before, climbing all over the boulders and stuff in the middle of the night.
Yep.
And that tree is about 100 meters away from where I took the photo.
Wow.
And the light that's under that, the light painting, is just a little. It's over there on charge. Sorry, mate. But it's actually here's the box. It's one of those.
Okay.
Can you see that? Not there. It's a little.
Yep.
It's a Ulanzi panel light. It's a R70 panel light, but it's not. I've actually posted this on into the Facebook group before, and the funny thing about this is that I'm using everything that I'm using to take this photo. None of it was designed to do what it's done to capture this photo.
Yeah.
But yeah, the iPhone is not designed to do this sort of photo. It's just not.
No.
Because if it was, it would do it better. And that light that I'm using there is a vlogging light. It's for people to walk around with, people with a camera on, the little tripod and little light and walk around.
I've got my, here we go. Let's just do some more product stuff. I've got my Ulanzi lights here, and I've got this set up for macro. So again, it's for vlogging, but I've got this set up so that I've got a light source from underneath or side by side.
Yes.
So they're directional, and I can shoot towards there. So even though it's for vlogging and just one light source on camera towards you, when you start trying to be versatile and to use these and match them to what you want to achieve, it's fantastic gear.
So that's I think what you showed there was the 49 series lights, the VL49 or something.
Spot on. Yep, that's the one.
Spot on. So that they're an incremental light as well, so that you can adjust the brightness of that one by percentage, I think.
Yep.
And so this one that we're looking at, this photo, it's basically the same sort of thing. And not to spoil the video for you, but that light is at 1%. And that's 100 meters away.
Wow.
So that's 1% brightness at 100 meters. It's so bright. So it's I can't remember what your initial question was to get us to this point, but here we are.
That's right. So it's how do you prepare and identify where the location is? But one of the other things one of the other things you mentioned the other day in a video is moonrise, and that's a term that I've never heard of before. What does that mean?
It's just like the sunrise, but with the moon.
All right.
So it's with this sort of photography, with the Milky Way sort of photography, and this is the rule for phones, DSLRs, whatever. It doesn't matter what camera. Light pollution is the killer. Yeah. So as soon as you won't get this sort of photo that we're looking at here from the city, it just doesn't happen. There's too much light pollution from street lights, building lights, all that sort of stuff. You need to move away from those cities to do that. And the moon is exactly the same. So the Milky Way season, it's different through the year. It's different around the world. So in Australia, it's from, if you're lucky enough, you'll probably get it for an hour in the pre-dawn from about end of February, early March, and you'll get it through to about November. Outside of those two, outside of that period, you're just not going to see it. It's up there in the middle of the day, and it's on the other side of the planet, if you like, through the rest of it. And in the northern hemisphere, it's a little bit different. It's a shorter period.
Right.
But with that in mind, over the course of the month, you've only got really about 2 weeks to do this in, because the moon's up for the rest of it. Whether it's a full and you.
With the moon?
No, not at all. No, not at all. The moon can be, say, 1/4 of a moon.
Yep.
After that, it's too much.
Yeah.
Too much light. Yep.
Yeah. And you've mentioned before a light pollution map for those that do live in built-up areas to try and identify how far and which direction to go. For me, I've got about a 30-minute drive to get into an ideal spot. And so what's the name of that app?
It's not an app. Well, actually, it does have an app as well, but it's a website, lightpollutionmap.info. Yep. And you just type your location that you're going to there, and it will give you a Bortle reading for that site. A Bortle is your light pollution, your darkness rating, I should say. It's not your light pollution rating, it's your darkness rating, how dark the skies are there. And if you got to a Bortle 4, you'll get photos like what you're seeing here. Bortle, anything below 4 is just going to be better than that. Bortle 5, you're going to get stars, but you're not going to necessarily get that gaseous cloud of galactic core. Yeah. So aim for 4 and below.
Yeah, right. Fantastic. And how would you? I'll just bring this one up now. This is the other image you sent through. When you've planned your shot, you've got your location, you use the augmented reality on photo pills, and that's available on Android as well.
Yes.
Yep. Fantastic.
Yep.
So people have done that. They've got their location, got out there, got right time of year, right time of night, and you are lucky enough to capture one of these. When I say lucky, you've got the right gear, but there are other apps out there like what are we? ProCam. I think they're up to ProCam 8, Pro Camera, Slow Shutter. There's lots of different ones you can play around with. But once you've got this, how do you edit to bring out that color and that detail without it becoming overly grainy and just pretty odd?
So just to go back to what you were saying then,
Yep.
before we talk about editing, to take this photo, so this particular photo we're looking at right now is with the Hauwei P40 Pro.
Right.
And with the ultra-wide camera on that phone. And I put that one in there, gave this one to you because ultra-wide on phones are usually a really bad aperture.
Right.
And the Huawei is definitely the best for ultra-wide lenses with the low aperture number. Like that's pretty impressive. But with the Android phones, the way that you're going to use that phone to take a photo is in pro mode. You can certainly get tighter with the settings here with rules of 500 and stuff. But as a general rule, if you shot for 30 seconds, ISO, say 1600, manually focused to infinity, you're going to get a shot similar to this if you plan it properly.
Yeah.
And you can tweak it for each individual phone with seconds and with ISO and white balance and things like that to make it better for that specific phone.
Yeah.
But as a general rule for Androids, that's the starting point. For iPhones 11 Pro and onwards, you want to be shooting in that native camera app, in the camera app that comes on the phone, and use night mode on that phone. So when you put that phone on a tripod, the accelerometer or gyro that's in that phone knows that it's dead still. And then it will give you an option for 30 seconds. If you do it handheld, you only get 10 seconds. So 30 seconds is what you want to capture photos like the truck and the tree and stuff that you saw before. They were both with the iPhone 13. Yeah. Now, the apps that you're talking about with ProCam and things like that, they can't do this.
Right.
They have all the manual settings to do wonderful photos in good lighting and slightly low lighting, but they're all governed at 1 second. So they have a maximum exposure time of 1 second, and that is a no-no for astrophotography. You're not going to capture it. In fact, when I started the channel, I did so many reviews on different apps to get to try and get a better app to take astrophotos, and none of them do it. Some of them do a long exposure light painting and stuff, but that's really designed for car light trails and stuff, things like that. But they're not designed for this. When it comes to apps for taking astrophotos on the iPhone, is the native camera app, and really it's even longer. That other app even longer, and that's not going to get you. Actually, I don't know if it's going to get you this sort of photo. Yeah, but you can certainly do star trails and things like that. And
stand by for the next video.
Well, I've certainly done a few videos with that already. Yeah. It's for somebody who astrophotography is one of those things that with photography, it's very, very rare for me to say to somebody your gear is holding you back. Yeah. Because it's generally speaking, it's not the case. It's more your creative abilities or styles or whatever, your photographic eye that will generally hold you back. And that sort of thing you can train people for or train people with. But only this is the only genre of photography, maybe underwater photography, is another one, where your gear will stop you doing something. So what we were saying before, like your phone, for example, it's going to hold you back a bit from doing this sort of photography.
Yep.
However, you can get, for anyone with an iPhone 11 and earlier, an iPhone 11, not a Pro, 11, because the 11s, iPhone 11 didn't have night mode, or didn't. I'm not sure if it does now. But if you get an app called Night Cap app or Night Capture app, and that's got Star Trail mode, Meteor mode, ISS mode, as in space station, all those modes, but you can manually set that to shoot for 30 seconds. So you can start it and then stop it again in 30 seconds, and you'll get, it's not going to be as good as what you're seeing here, but it's going to be the best that those phones can do.
I think
makes sense.
It does, and I think with that app, it will showcase things like this. If I can zoom in a little bit and move this, you can see there the little dot.
That's an aeroplane, that one.
Yeah. So the aeroplane. So I think with that app, those star trails do just end up being ... and that's one of the things that even longer is doing an amazing job to try and reduce that. Yeah,
exactly. So that ... in that photo there is actually the lights flashing on the plane. So that actually is meant to be a dot. That's, as someone who does a lot of astrophotography, I'll go, that's not a star, that's not a shooting star, that's not a meteor, that is a plane because of the dots. And there's no other. I'm just looking at the photo on my screen here so I can see it a bit clearer. But there's no meteors in that photo. I'll just have a look at the other photos real quick and see if I can see anything. And there's not. But quite often in a lot of my photos, you'll see meteors and stuff, especially in the star trail photos. So when there's like just bands of light across the sky, you'll see the bands of light of the stars, and then you'll see
that's cool. That adds to the story, doesn't it?
Yeah, all of this is the thing with astrophotography. You can take a photo, and the more you look at it, the more you see. Like in that photo of the tree, the last one, the Hauwei phone, where that ... was. There, I'm not sure if you can see it on yours, but on the far left-hand side of that photo, there's a really bright star there, but that's actually Venus.
Right.
And to see that like blown up in a photo, that's kind of cool. But that bright dot there is actually a planet. And the more you go out there under the stars, the more you go, oh, that's there and that's there. And I remember seeing that last time. It's really interesting. Yeah. But to edit this photo, that was the original question. Sorry, mate. To edit these photos, there are different ways you can do it. And different phones have better editing capabilities in different apps. With the 11 and 12, I found it pretty well even down the line as far as what apps to use. And I use almost exclusively Lightroom. Because I'm a photographer as well, so I have that as part of my photography package that when I do weddings and stuff. Sorry. So I use that for most of my editing with these sorts of photos. You can use Snapseed as well. Snapseed is free. It's a Google service. I'm sure you've spoken to your audience about that before. And it's really good, Snapseed, except for the hazing options. And you can do some dehazing, and haze happens, for some reason, it happens a lot with phones. I don't quite know why. I can't quite get my head around why that happens. But pretty much every phone that I shoot with for astrophotography, it gives a haze. There's always a haze. And Snapseed is a very good tool, except for when it comes to dehazing. You can kind of get around a little bit with your contrast sliders, but Lightroom just has that one tool, dehazing. It's like a magic wand for these sorts of photos. If you were somebody who was going to get out there and take lots of astrophotography photos with your phone, I'd be getting Lightroom. It's miles ahead of anything else out there. It's just that you've got to pay for it. But it's not like you buy it for that one slider. With every image that I do of the galactic core, I'll edit that galactic core, and it's so much nicer and easier to use, more efficient in your time to use something like Lightroom to edit that core, to bring out shadows in the foreground and reduce the highlights when you've light painted too hard. It's just a fantastic tool. I'm sure you've done stuff with
Yeah.
Lightroom before.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's eHazy you're talking about. That's actually a free tool inside Lightroom, so you don't actually have to pay to use it. Yeah, I think that when you subscribe, I mean, you get the benefit of synchronizing across all devices, which is a big one for you. It takes so many photos. But if for those that are new to Lightroom and kind of if you're listening and you're feeling like, oh, they're talking about Lightroom, I don't want Adobe, I don't want. I get it. I totally understand that feeling of overwhelm, thinking but the Lightroom app is fantastic. As you say, it's just sliders. There's no right and wrong. You can undo it. And so for the subscription, really the only thing you get extra with the subscription is things like local adjustments, so area specific adjustments, some geometry adjustments, and a couple others. But there's other apps like Snapseed builds in the app with those ones.
It's weird that we're talking about this because I've got a friend of mine who works for Adobe. I'll end up having him on our live stream at some point. And I actually messaged him earlier today to say, hey, can you give me a list of what's free or what's available on, what people miss out on, basically, with Lightroom. Because I'm using Lightroom so much, it's one of these things like, here, go and buy this phone. Like, I'm blowing up on YouTube at the moment because of this phone, the iPhone 13 Pro. Now, in Australia, that's nearly $2,000, that phone. Yeah? That's for the Pro Max. It's like $1,800 and something dollars. And we're sitting here squabbling over $9. And basically I said to him, can you tell me what's available or what's not available for the free version? Because I don't have the free version, I've got the subscription. I don't know what you get and what you don't get. I just use it because I have it. And cloud storage, obviously, presets. So like if you were to go to my website and buy presets, you wouldn't be able to use them unless you were paying for Lightroom. Healing brush, selective adjustments, Sensei search, geometry tools, raw editing.
That's a big one.
So taking photos with this. Pro Raw, won't be able to edit it in the free version. And the web galleries. But that's it. Everything else you can use. So the dehazing tool is absolutely there, but you're just not going to shoot Pro Raw because it won't let you import that Pro Raw without the subscription service. So, like I said,
you also get some extra styles as well. Like you get a limited range with the free, and the ones that you get with the premium, they're so much better. And another thing with the and I can't wait to watch when you have a chat to is Russell you're talking to. When you talk to Russell about the community side of Adobe, because one of the things I love about the app is you can go into discovery and you can see other photos that other people have taken, and then they share their steps, so you can go and actually have a look at the steps they took to create that before and after. Some of them actually make it available as a preset, so you can download it yourself. The community part of Adobe, the mobile platform, is brilliant. It's and also their learn feature is amazing too. It's the only one I've seen out there where you actually, as you go through the steps of their tutorial, you actually tactically you're touching the screen, you're doing it, and if you don't do it right, it won't let you get to the next step. So you have to do it. It's
very clever.
Yeah.
I was talking to him about some of the tools that exist for Adobe and versus other editing suites, and I was saying to him that some of these things, other apps and stuff, they just change. Like something new happens, they can just change it. And he was saying that think of Adobe like I think he said like a cruise ship, or maybe a freighter or something like that. We do things well and we do things at a steady pace and we never ever stop. But don't ask us to change course immediately because it'll take a little bit of planning and a few meetings, and then we might think about it. So it's that sort of approach. And from a photography point of view, to have a system like that at the back end, even with my weddings and stuff, I will go and shoot a wedding, shoot certain types of images, and I'll look on the back of the camera and go, if I showed that to the customer, they wouldn't be happy, but I know I'm shooting to edit, basically. I know that what I can do with this in the edit. And that's the way I approach it, because I've got that tool on my back end that helps me become that photographer, helps me have that photography style across all that paid sort of work, and it works really well. I love using it.
Yeah.
Look at that shameless plug for Adobe.
Nice.
Like
Well,
they
now
needed, like they needed it.
I'm going to do a shameless plug for you now.
Oh,
So down the bottom of the screen, how's that for a segue? So for those that are listening on the podcast, Shayne has his own website, as well as the YouTube channel is an amazing resource to go there and pick up little bits of information here and there. But as you know, learning through a structured way, it kind of accelerates that learning. And so on your website, you have a free ebook. Can you tell us about the free ebook that you've got there?
oh, look, it's just 6 ways to ramp up your style a little bit, just to get you thinking differently. It was something that when I went from DSLR, teaching DSLR photography to phone photography, it's basically the same, but there's so many advantages of just your phone. And this kind of covers that a little bit. So that's pretty much what that book's about. Yeah, just that.
Yeah, fantastic. And on there, I had a quick look before, and you're starting to, or your YouTube videos, you're putting them inside your website as well. So the website address there is phonephotoschool.com.au. And your community...
I certainly don't put all of them there because it'd be full.
Well, on my website,
I put the ones there. What's that, mate?
Yeah, I was going to say, on my website, I can only list the 3 most recent one, and then unless you jump into my forum and membership, you don't see them again. Yep. They all kind of disappear. So
yeah. I pretty much put the ones. See, sometimes with what I do, I kind of wish that Samsung, Google, and Apple would pay me commissions, because the amount of times that I see in my YouTube comments, that was great, I've just made my decision, thanks for helping. And they'll go out and buy that phone. I wasn't going to buy this phone, but now I am, damn it, that sort of thing, after they've seen what I can do with it. And part of that process, see, when I buy something, I research the absolute bejesus out of that thing. If I'm going to go and buy like this camera here that's a cool, funky camera. When I bought that, I watched so many YouTube videos about that camera. Yeah. I read so many articles about that camera before I went and bought it, because money's not cheap. So when it comes to a phone, and people go, "Well, this guy's taking these amazing photos," but I often get comments down the bottom in my comments of, "Oh, that's fake. You didn't really do that." I did it. It's there, and when I think that sort of comment is going to come about, or like some of like that truck photo, that's an amazing photo. From a phone, it's just ridiculous. So when I take that sort of a photo, that's the sort of video that I'll put on the website. And I'll also put the photos on the website for people to download and look at in full resolution. Yeah. So that it helps them kind of get their head around that you can do this with the phone.
Yeah. Fantastic. So can you tell us about your Facebook group? The
Bloody Legends.
I was going to let you do
it. So we said before, I'm ex-military, and I'm certainly better at it these days than what I used to be. But I used to swear like a sailor. I wasn't a sailor; I was an infantryman, but I used to swear like nothing else. And then when I became an instructor, when I started that journey for photography, I had to tone that right down, Yeah. And then when it came to the YouTube stuff, it was like, oh, a bit of swearing can get you demonetized. And I'm not doing this because I love it, and I do, but money certainly helps. And I started saying bloody a lot, and I found myself saying bloody in lieu of swearing. and some people will say, oh, bloody's a swear word too. Yeah, well, the Australian government seems to think differently, and they had a "Where the bloody hell are you" campaign. Do you remember that? Yeah. Anyway, I digress. So in the comments, I would go through my spiel on the videos, especially when I was new to it and the channel. And I would say, you know, I do 2 videos each and every week all about small sensor photography. So if you do like that sort of thing, hit the subscribe button. And if you have already done that, you're a legend.
Yeah.
And then someone in the comments one day, and I wish I could find it because it started a bit of a thing.
Yep.
And someone said, "Don't you mean bloody legend?" Because I was saying bloody a lot. And that was it. That was the community name from then on in. It was called Bloody Legends. And I would then say, if you have subscribed, you're a bloody legend. And people would put in that comment, "Oh, I'm a bloody legend." Yeah. So a few guys there, and I say guys because you're it's not all guys, but the analytics in YouTube are just amazing. If anyone likes playing with data and reading, you know, I used to have this saying when I was working in IT: if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And if you can't manage your YouTube channel, you're not reading it right. The amount of tools that are available to a creator is better than anything else I've ever seen in any genre of any sort of measuring analytic anywhere. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
I look at that and it basically tells me that the person that I'm giving all my videos to is a guy who lives in Northern America somewhere. He's about 40 years old and he has a lot of disposable income. Right. That's the guy that I'm teaching to, because the analytics tell me that. Now, the community, it's not all guys. There's plenty of ladies in there too, and everything in between. But the vast majority is what I just described to you.
Yeah.
So they asked me, can you do a Discord channel? Because I started down the Patreon route to try and make some money out of the channel, and I started down the Patreon path, and I had a Discord channel there, and I just found it too many places to be managing the community that I have. And someone said, "Oh, I started a Facebook group." I'm like, "Do I want to do that? I don't have enough time in my life to do what I'm doing, plus administer a Facebook group." And eventually enough people asked me about it in live streams and things like that. And I just started it. Within a day of me starting it, I had a guy say, "Do you need any help administering this?" I'm like, "Yes, go for it." So, how many is that group up to now? I'll tell you in just a second while we're
over 600 last time I looked.
Yeah, there probably would be, mate. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it was 7 by now, to be honest. It's growing pretty rapidly. 684 as I speak to you now. Nice. And if anyone who is watching or listening to this belongs to any Facebook groups for photography, you know that generally speaking, those groups are a pain. There is always someone there telling you, "I caught this on a phone," and you're like, "You just didn't. I can tell you didn't take it on a phone." And other people saying, "Oh, that's wrong. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. You should be buying this sort of phone. You're an idiot." This sort of thing. I'll tell you what. On that group that we've got going on over there, people are just so pleasant towards each other. It doesn't matter whether you're driving a Ford or a Holden, they don't care. If it's a good-looking car, it's a good-looking car, and they call it that. So iPhone people are out there taking iPhone photos. Android people are going, "That's amazing, well done, great shot. How'd you do it?" It's such a good group. It just really is. It's a pleasure to be a part of, and I go on there a few times a day and have a look and see what people are posting, and there's some amazing photographers out there. It just is. So when I live stream now, I actually bring up some of those photos from the group and show everyone what's in the group because they're just bloody amazing photos. So when I do live stream, I live stream to as much of the community as I can find. I stream to once every 2 weeks. I stream to YouTube, and then I stream to Facebook in 2 locations on Facebook into that Bloody Legends photography group and into the Phone Photo School page, so that it's touching pretty much everyone who is interested in this sort of thing. And as often as I can, in fact, I don't think I ever won't do it. I'll bring someone on from that community to host the show with me or to be a guest on the show. And if I can't get that, I will find someone who is not necessarily part of the community, but can certainly bring some value to that community. So you're a YouTuber, mate, but you live in a place that's still regional Victoria, isn't it? You're in Geelong, aren't you?
Yep.
Yeah. But is it really regional Victoria?
No, not like you.
But so YouTubing for someone like myself who lives in a town with like 2,500 people, maybe 500 of those people, well, maybe 1,000 of those people know what YouTube is, and 500 of them have probably watched it at some point in their life, and maybe 50 watch it on a regular basis. So it's a pretty lonely existence as far as YouTube creator goes where I am. Like, you just don't know anyone. So that community, for me, it's good for the community to have that because they bounce ideas off each other. But for me, it gives you that motivation because all I see are numbers. All I go is, that's a ripper of a video. That video's got 50,000 views. That's awesome. It's doing well. But when you put people behind those numbers, it becomes so much more real, and you care more then about what you're doing. So the community for me it's everything.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So I've transitioned from doing a similar sort of thing, and now my community is in a membership area with a forum, and I do miss that face to face with the community. It's something that I need to do more of, and I think I'll follow your lead and do more lives with members of the community. I think, because it's just fantastic, because you can see that, hey, we all have the same struggles. We all have the same struggles.
Absolutely.
With activity, with inspiration. We all go through creative slumps, and it's just, I think it's really, really valuable, and it's something that I certainly enjoy having a Facebook group as well. Yeah,
I absolutely love the community. It's, like I say, man, it's everything to me. I could be making far less money than what I am making on YouTube, and I'd still be doing it just because it's an awesome community, and they enjoy what I'm doing. They're all learning from something that I'm doing. So it's a win-win-win-win.
Prior to COVID, I was actually living overseas, and so my business kind of just went on the back burner. And the only thing that I did for 8 months or so was I just kept my community going, the Facebook group, weekly themes, putting together a collage of everyone, to get everyone talking and engaging. And it's the whole business. That was the only thing that I was interested in, and it is a big part of what we do. It's good fun.
It really is. Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Fantastic. So before we wrap this up, Shayne, have you got just a quick couple of tips to anyone who's moving from the big camera down to a smartphone, or they've just enjoy taking photos, and it brings them in joy and satisfaction, and they want to just get more into photography? What tips would you give somebody to start their learning journey and their progress?
Well, even when I've taught people proper camera photography, like here at the local, it's like Echuca, so it's like 60 something kilometers away. When somebody goes in there to buy a new DSLR camera, they will often give them my card, say, go and talk to this guy, he'll show you how to use it. And pretty much all the time, and you'll work it out pretty quickly, and you would have seen this with your instructional stuff. It's not so much the technical know-how, how to change the aperture and the shutter speed or metering and things like that. It's more the creative side of doing it and learning composition, finding new things to photograph, new subjects. So I always tell them, go and get your phone, because it's easy to use, and go and practice those skill sets. Go and practice your composition. Go and practice finding things to photograph. But the biggest part of advice I'd say for anyone who's into taking photos with your phone, don't do it for any other reason than that you enjoy doing it. Yeah. Everyone has access to doing this. And the day I live in now, everyone seems to have an opinion, and they all think that they're right. But when it comes to this sort of thing, the only person's opinion that matters should be yours and yours alone. Go and take those photos. If you're happy with how that photo looks, you be happy with how that photo looks. That's all that matters. Yeah. That's the advice I would give you.
Yeah, fantastic. That's brilliant. All right, I'll just bring up your website again. So for those listening on the podcast, it's www.phonephotoschool.com.au, and subscribe to the channel, which is Shayne Mostyn Mobile Photography. And when you subscribe, make sure you hit the bell and change it to all notifications. So then you'll get the notifications when you go live. And jump in the comments and engage.
That's right.
And even if you just watch a couple of times and see, you'll see exactly what Shayne's talking about, with it just being such a inspirational group where everyone's just so supportive. There's no elitism. There's no comparing. I mean, you'll get the Android people complaining about the fact they don't have some of the apps, but it's all jovial. It's all fun.
Yeah,
it
is. It is.
Great time.
It really is. Yeah.
Well,
very good, mate.
Thanks again, Shayne. Really appreciate it, and I'll talk to you again soon.
No worries. Good on you. Catch you later.